observed an item being thrown from the car window. A brief pursuit would end when the vehicle stopped and two men attempted to run. Officers would fire stun guns before restraining the suspects and located a .380 caliber handgun, which was believed to have been the item thrown from the vehicle. 21-year-old Anthony Maldonado and 22-year-old Nicholas.
Yeah, that dude definitely looks like he has Down syndrome. That's insane. That is crazy. And how does this asshole, who the fuck is this asshole who, like, took this dude with Down syndrome on this murder spree? You know, it's this dude right here on the left. What a fucking asshole, dude. He fucked up his whole life. Poor dude, man. I feel so sorry. That's so horrible. He doesn't even know what he did, man.
Samuto would be arrested at the scene and
so
identified by the driver as the two suspects who fatally shot a man 16 hours earlier. Nicholas Samuto is a documented member of the Latin Kings who goes by the name Smush and is also documented or diagnosed with Down syndrome. It was 2:35 a.m. when officers arrived at the 2700 block of West 18th Street. A dead body laid in between two parked vehicles with gunshot wounds to the chest and head. He was identified as 22-year-old Tomas Villa. An investigation would soon learn Tomas was walking home after parking his car when he was mistaken for a member of a rival gang because of the hat he was wearing. Tomas had walked past the stolen Chrysler when Anthony opened fire from the front passenger window, causing Tomas to take cover in between two vehicles. That's when Smush got out of the back seat of the car, stood over Tomas, and fired rounds into his chest and head. A surveillance...
Damn! This motherfucker is a demon, bro. Bro, what the fuck?
Camera captured the murder, but the suspects couldn't be identified. Detectives instead tracked the car's movements before and after the shooting with different surveillance cameras, including a liquor store's.
Bro, that guy got the whole starter kit, bro. He got the teardrops. He's got the money sign. And he does look like he's got some bad intentions. Look at his face. He's angry. That's crazy, bro. I didn't think he
helped them identify the suspects. .380 caliber shell casings were found at the scene of Tomas's body, and it's believed Smush threw the .380 from the vehicle during the chase. A gunshot residue test would be conducted and positively react to Smush's red hoodie. Anthony and Smush would be charged with the stolen vehicle, resisting police, and felony murder, while the driver went uncharged. Smush would go into court where his public defender brought up his Down syndrome, saying he has mild to moderate mental and physical disabilities. The prosecution would then indict...
No, he's not that fucked up then. I guess you are just a product of your environment, man. I guess this is what would happen if someone had Down syndrome and was in the streets like that. That's so fucked, man.
Smush.
He doesn't have that judgment like everyone else does. It's fucked up, bro.
On the second murder, alleging he killed...
If anyone, I mean, he did mag dump someone in the chest and head. So I don't know, man. I guess you can't, there's no way to get around that.
Killed a man 10 days before he killed the second.
This was unlikely to be a random shooting. It was very aggressive given the nature of the shooting.
He wasn't breathing anymore. He was dead already. I called the ambulance, but it was too late.
On February 16th, Illinois State Police responded to Interstate 55 just after 9:30 at night. Stadies would locate an SUV on the right side of the expressway with the driver's side rear window shot out. A pregnant woman with her 11 and 3-year-old daughters were outside of the vehicle, while her husband and their father, 28-year-old Humberto Garcia, was pronounced dead inside of the vehicle. They had just turned onto the expressway when the wife heard an explosion, believing it was a tire.
You just never know what's going to be your day. You just don't know, man. Wearing the wrong hat, wrong day, wrong place. That could easily be me right there. You just got to appreciate where you're at. That's why I'm glad I'm in a good environment, you know. My parents were wealthy enough to put me in the suburbs because this could be any of us.
She looked back and saw the window was shot out and screamed for her kids to get down. Her 11-year-old daughter shielded her 3-year-old sister as gunfire erupted, and the wife thought everything was okay until her husband lost control of the vehicle. She grabbed the wheel, guiding the SUV off to the right before putting it in park and checking on her husband. He'd been shot dead, and shortly after law enforcement arrived, she was taken to the hospital as a pregnancy precaution. Through extensive investigation, the suspected shooter's vehicle and passengers were identified, which put law enforcement's eye on King Smush. The shooting was determined to be a case of road rage, and the same investigators would later assist in his capture. So in a span of 10 days, Smush had killed 2 men, but investigators would also note that 3 years back,
So he
Smush
killed
was
2 goofies.
suspected of having killed another man.
A Chicago man has been laid to rest 1 week after he was found dead in the street in McKinley Park. His family says he was murdered, shot in the back of the head.
Like, why? He wasn't in, I don't judge nobody, but, you know, he wasn't in a gang or anything.
December 30th,
He wasn't even in a gang, bro?
2020.
That's fucked up, man. They just use him as a crash dummy.
It was 1 a.m. in the morning when someone driving saw a man laying in the middle of the street. Police arrived on scene, observing the trauma to the man's head when an ambulance transported him to the hospital. 21-year-old Gene Cobian was pronounced dead, and while it was initially thought he'd been hit by a car, it turned out he'd been shot in the back of the head. His mother was notified her son had been executed and his car and phone were missing. 6 weeks after the murder, police arrested Smush, who was found with a bullet inside of a backpack while they were investigating a double-parked car. It turned out a witness had positively identified him as taking part in Gene's murder. Smush was 18 at the time. This was his 17th arrest, but he was never actually charged with the murder as the case against him was weak. And it turns out he'd never actually been convicted of any crime. Facing the rest of his life in prison, King Smush is tied to 3 bodies in the city of Chicago and just may be the only member of any gang to have Down syndrome and be down for the said.
That's crazy.
Now, this is one of the wildest cases I've ever heard of, and I'm not surprised it's coming out of Chicago. I would have guessed Chicago, Florida, or the Bronx.
Yep.
To hear that the Latin Kings have a no discrimination policy is wild, because I can't imagine anybody seeing somebody with Down syndrome and being like, yeah, we're gonna make him
That's the perfect soldier. That's a perfect soldier right there.
one of the guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, but obviously something within him is either naturally violent or his environment has trained him to be how he is.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
he's got 2 teardrops tatted on his face, a dollar sign, and since he was 18, he's been named in murder investigations. This man allegedly has committed 3 murders. He's only 22 years old, and he has Down syndrome. What? Like, I don't mean to laugh because it's a serious, but what? Like, imagine you got killed. Nah, he got killed. Who did it? And then you see his picture. What? And one of the craziest aspects about the entire situation is it wasn't even him that snitched. Apparently, it was the driver who went unnamed, unarrested, uncharged with anything. I mean, he could have made up any story like, yo, they had the gun on me and they made me drive and this and that. But it wasn't even bruh that snitched. It wasn't Smush. It was apparently someone else, and we don't know what the fuck he's diagnosed with.
Mushy's the only real one, bro.
Damn, this shit's crazy. Now, on a serious note, I mean, it's horrible because everyone that was killed,
caught 3 bodies.
you had a case of mistaken identity. You had a father that was killed in front of his 11 and 3-year-old daughter and his pregnant wife, his 6-month pregnant wife. And then you had some other 21-year-old kid that was going home and got shot in the back of the head. Has no idea what the fuck just happened. He's walking home and everything turns off. And apparently his head and chest were damaged to the point that they thought he was hit by a car when it turned out he was shot in the back of the head. Which I'm assuming means he was hit with a bullet big enough to do crazy damage if it's affecting all this. If what is being alleged is true, how do you punish somebody with Down syndrome, bro? Because it's like, can you still be held accountable? You got people that will go the mental route saying they're mentally crazy, but would that work for him? Could they put him in a general population prison yard? You know what I'm saying? Like, he's gonna go over there and pick up a knife and keep gangbanging? Or was he led down this direction by his family, his peers, etc.? It's hard to understand, but I would assume that an environment that's filled with violence and bloodshed, you're gonna become that if that's your influence. You're gonna get with it or fall victim. Even to the point that if you're mentally, like, if you have Down syndrome and you still understand, even though you have disabilities, you still understand it's life or death out here. And he decided to pick up a gun. Man, drop y'all's thoughts in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. It's 1090 J. I'm rocking with y'all, and y'all rocking with me. Till next time.